up, Jack Donovan, number 2. Joined by his parents, Rory and sister May.
Like
Jack will be attending Columbia University.
yeah.
Good luck, Jay.
Jumps down.
Good luck, Jay.
No, like when I try to like go down like this, see how it just jumps down. It's so annoying. Every time. I like untight. And boosting.
Next up, joined by his mom, he will be attending Subcommittee.
It's not good.
Up next, number 11, Matt Paul. Now to join by his senior Jordan Harry Donovan. Up next, number 13, Michael Santulo. Michael is joined by his mother and father, Mr. Santulo. In the fall, he will be attending UNH.
I was gonna play. I always pick these spots. I was gonna play lacrosse last year because they always pick seniors, and a bunch of my friends were on the team. So, and then Rona.
Up next, number 16, JJ Abiza. JJ is joined by his mother and father. He will be attending UMass Dartmouth in the fall. Good luck, JJ. next, number 19, Captain Lance Anderson. Lance is attending Michael Anderson. He will be attending Funky in the fall. We wish you the best, Lance. Good luck, Ryan. Up next, number 26, Ron Boucher. Ron will be attending UMass Lowell in the fall. We wish you the best, Ron.
Not coming out.
Up next, number 27, Chris Tomorrow. This is joined today by Mr. and Mrs. Tomorrow. We will be attending UMass Lowell in the fall. God bless Chris. Please take a chance to applaud the senior class of 2021. We wish you all the best.
probably go back to grab if you wanted to.
Nice move.
No, there's 2 minutes left now.
I see it. Oh! Yes! Oh!
Give him help! Hey, hey! Give Eli help!
Oh,
Get it up!
Nice lift. Throw it, throw it. ride, get a ride.
In on Thomas. Watch backside. Watch backside. Hey, back side, they're going forward.
Double it! Double it!
Help him out! Who's helping him?
Cardinals.
White!
Good in there, Eli. Let's go, Jay!
got one, boys.
On the pipe, Jack.
Now go! One more! Good defense, Colin. Good D, good D. Defense! 10 seconds! Push him out!
just got a warning for severe thunderstorm. No, I said I just got a warning for severe thunderstorms. Severe thunderstorms. Yeah, hopefully we're out of here, man. What needs to be brought up to the office? The batteries, right? Alright. Shut up for that. Alright, yeah.
Wait! Ward. Another Ward.
Good hustle, Bruce.
What a goal!
Yep. We know what they're having.
2021. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Day. Mike, we have Mrs. Day. She was
What's the first? Yeah. Madam Chair, if I could have a moment of silence and remembrance for Miss Day, Woburn School employee for many, many years, passed away recently. Moment of silence and remembrance in her honor, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mullen.
Yep.
And Dr. Wells. Good evening, everyone. Could the superintendent please call the roll?
Ms. Chisholm.
Here.
Ms. Cormier.
Present.
Mr. Lipset.
here.
Mr. Kissel.
Here.
Mr. Mulrennan.
Present.
Dr. Wells.
Here.
Ms. Crowley.
Present. We're all here and accounted for. On the agenda, we have approval of minutes for 4/29/21. Any action?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Aye. That motion passes 7-0. Next, I have approval of minutes for 5/5/21. Any action?
Same action, Madam Chair.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Aye. That motion passes 7-0. Public comments. We do not see anybody in the audience, and no one has signed up to speak to the school committee tonight. Moving on to student representatives, I see we have Miss. Thank you. Hello, Faith.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Chair. So for the high school report as of May 25th, progress reports for term 4 happened at the end of last week, at the end of or almost at the end of a very challenging year. So thank you to all the students and staff who worked very hard and put all their work in to conclude a very difficult yet amazing year. So MCAS for grades 10 and select grade 11 students took place this week in the ELA and math testing. With this, nearly 40 seniors qualified for the seal of biliteracy, demonstrating proficiency in 2 languages through a national and state assessment. Senior events are in motion this week and next week to culminate the graduation on June 6th at 2 p.m. 86 seniors presented their internship progress to administration and staff this week. These were amazing and demonstrates their ability of WMHS students to rise even in the face of adversity. Summer programming is in motion. All 3 high school assistant principals will be running various summer programs from kindergarten to 8th grade enrichment to traditional summer school. With this, Darian Kane was named WMHS's Class of 2021 valedictorian, and Tara Metters the salutatorian. Congrats to both and their families. Spring athletic teams are doing very well, and many will enter the postseason play in June. WMHS will host a vaccination drive for students tomorrow, and the Board of Health will give the vaccines, and families must sign up their children ahead of time and to see the email by Woburn Public Schools for more information. And that concludes my student report for the high school. Thank you.
Fantastic. Committee members, any questions for Ms. Fonduto? No, that was an excellent presentation as always. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Chisholm has a question.
Maybe she could just let us know about the yearbook dedication and whatnot.
This morning.
I think Ms. Callanan is going to answer that.
Still a thunder?
Okay. Any more questions? No, thank you so much for coming tonight. You're welcome to stay. Or you can get back to your, end of the year.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, anytime.
Thank you, Faith.
Okay, moving on to City Council Liaison, Mr. Concanon. Tied up in other business. Reports and presentation of superintendent and staff. First, we have a vote on the school calendar for the next school year.
Madam Chair, can I make a motion to suspend the rules and see if Ms. Judkins can go first so she can leave? Is that possible?
Sure. Would you like to make that motion, Ms.
Yes.
Cormier? Okay. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So, committee has voted to hear from Ms. Junkins. Thank you, Ms. Cormier. That was very considerate of you. Oh, Miss Judkins, I'm sorry you got to miss out on the vote on the school calendar. I'm really anxious to
You can stay
observe
home.
that. But you can stay, so.
Jess, just confirming, you can hear me still, right? Jess?
Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you.
thank you.
I was-
Yeah, you're on, yeah, all right, I should be more savvy, given where we are.
And who's sitting at the microphone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Miss Judkins, I'm just gonna get you some water. Go ahead, Robert. Thank you, Mrs. Bissell.
so I think before she starts, I'd like to point out that Ms. Judkins has kind of bookended COVID. She came about a week or two before. We went on,
Hope she's not me.
COVID times in March, and then COVID ends Saturday. So here we are at the end. So so anyway, I just thought I'd highlight that. But and you're going to talk about what you've done, but I can't say even before you start. The Woburn Public Schools did really amazing things during the time of COVID, and we met the needs of so many people, but a lot of it through technology. And I can't thank you and your group enough because, and I know the committee will express that as well, but it really has, it's a tribute to you and the work that you've done. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to you.
And I heard you actually did get one-to-one technology for all the students in the public school for last year, so.
Talk about it. A 5-year plan looked
Yeah.
There you go.
So just checking to make sure everyone can hear me okay. I'll do my best to speak up. I know it can be difficult with the masks on, but thank you, Dr. Kelly, for acknowledging the work of the team. I certainly did not do this alone. It is not a large team. We are 7 people that really had certainly a very busy year, but it's our pleasure to serve the students and families of the community. And it really was quite a satisfying year in some ways to feel like we really made some forward progress. And I can't say enough about the staff and them rising to the occasion that was thrust upon all of us. So it was a year for sure, and so I want to be able to share with you a little bit about what has happened over the course of this year, and also sort of where we're looking in the future, just to give you a heads up. So these are focus areas that I had shared with this committee when I first came on, to let you know sort of the areas that I thought were things that I was focusing my time and attention on, and those continue to be areas that are aligned to the district's plan, but more specifically our department and the role that we play in helping to support that. So first, we onboarded a number of applications, and I simply mention this because it speaks to the new tools that have become available to our staff, the time and effort it takes not only for them to learn them, but for our team and others to support them in that learning, and just simply the onboarding and making sure these things function effectively for staff. It's unusual to onboard even a couple of applications because it's really important to make sure this is done very carefully and thoughtfully so that staff have time to sort of get up to speed before we add new things. But we felt that it was really important that staff have a toolbox of things that they have the option to use, and a few things that were required as usage because we were trying to set forth when we came back more consistency for families and for students, so that there were some core applications that they had experience with. I linked these things for your reference if you want to take a look at what they are and what they do. But I'll focus on just a couple, just to give you a flavor of the kinds of things that the teachers have experienced and the tools that we've onboarded and will continue to support that they can continue to utilize outside of remote instruction. So all of the decisions we made in terms of selecting tools were with the thought of trying to avoid one-trick pony things, tools that had a broad use across subject areas, and that wouldn't sort of get tiring and boring for kids having seen them once or twice, and things that would have value moving forward beyond COVID. That really informed all of our decisions when we were making purchases, knowing thankfully that this is a temporary situation, wanting to make investments that would have value and be worthy of teacher time so that it could pay off beyond just the COVID unusual learning environment that we had. So just some data for you on a couple of applications, and I'll just speak about them briefly so that you understand that these tools were used pretty broadly and pretty extensively. Paradeck is a tool that works in conjunction with Google Slides, which is equivalent to PowerPoint, essentially a presentation tool, but allows presentations to become more interactive, serve as assessments for students, where questions are embedded in the slides. There are pause points that are created by teachers where the entire class, if they're in front of the computers themselves, can then respond, so that the teacher's getting 100% response from students instead of just the kids that raise their hand and can be called on. So it really is a great way to assess students through their learning, but also create a more engaging environment as opposed to a standard kind of presentation where teachers are just delivering. So over 10,000 slide decks were created in this format, and by over 150 unique teachers, just to give you a sense of the usage of that. Certainly used more heavily in our remote learning environments where kids were on devices. I think and I support that teachers, when they come into school, have tried to minimize the use of technology, frankly, just because there's been an oversaturation of it. And so this continues to be in use with the remote environment, but when we come back in the fall, I expect it will be used more in class when we can have more time to have technology-free time and use time. Edpuzzle is a tool that is used for taking videos that either teachers create or are found on the web and embedding pause points in the videos that students are forced to respond to a question before proceeding. That creates really powerful data for teachers to see if students comprehended the information in the video, so that they can decide what maybe they need to reteach or focus on in the lesson. And then finally, Screencastify is a tool that was used and continues to be used very extensively, not only by teachers but students, where they can record their screen, either just what's on the screen explaining things, or with a picture of themselves, kind of in the corner, or just their own image. So it's a video recording tool, and those videos can be recorded and shared out as a simple link. So just to give you an idea of some of the kinds of things that our teachers are using and the level of that usage. We definitely accelerated our capital plan, certainly in one particular area, and that was around student devices. We also had, in addition to what you're aware of with student devices, I think it's important to mention that we installed over 70 projectors in the district. This was a concern that was identified pretty early on, that we had end-of-life projectors. This is a pretty essential tool in the classroom, and so we made some really great headway staying in track with the 5-year plan on trying to get those replaced over time. We did lab upgrades, and we're in the process of those at the high school. We are planning one-to-one, we'll talk about that, but still we need labs for some of the types of functionality that need bigger screens, more powerful devices, specialized software, and the like. So we continue to support a smaller number of labs, but labs still in the high school. And then we made some great headway in terms of our internet service, centralizing that to one provider, increasing the overall speed, and thankfully we did that in advance of the COVID, issue hitting us fully. We had that in the plan, and that allowed us to support all of the demands of the devices at the same time. So that was timely and helpful. As you know, we onboarded a number of student devices. You may not know how many. Over 2,800 new student devices. It felt like a lot, I will tell you that. In addition to that, just to give you a sense of the workload of the team and how they really rose to the occasion, we dismantled in a matter of a couple of days, myself included, and we all had the blisters to show it, parts of devices that are typically zip tied down, every cord, every wire, 30 devices a cart, 50 plus parts in a matter of days to get those devices out and in the hands of kids over the, when we first learned that we were going to be moving remote. We distributed over 2,400 devices. There are over 250 new mobile devices in the hands of teachers. That was part of our plan when I first came on board, to shift away from desktop computers to a mobile platform, and thank goodness, because I don't know what we would have done had we had as many desktops as we did when I got here. So that all sort of worked itself out. And just to give you a sense again of the workload, I looked at the past 3 years of our help desk ticketing system, and it's been consistent around 10,000 tickets or so a year over the 2019, 2020, and then this past year over 17,000. So that's because we opened up our support to families, not to mention staff and all of the new challenges they were facing. But it also doesn't capture the fact that we opened up a phone line for phone support on demand for families and staff. We've made house calls, we've done video calls with families, and so all of those things, while the doorbell is ringing all day long for people dropping out and swapping out devices to make sure people are not missing any class time and able to continue their learning. So in terms of moving forward, I just wanted to share with you some of the bigger projects that we have on the horizon. We are planning to move forward with a one-to-one plan in grades 6 through 12 in the fall. What that will look like is that over the summer, students who are in grades 9, 10, and 11 will retain their devices. We won't collect them. Students in the middle school will be returning their devices. It gives us a chance to get hands-on the devices, kind of assess them. Middle school is when they tend to get a little more bumped up, as you can imagine. They just seem to drop everything. So we'll take a look at them, get a sense of the condition of the devices, make sure we get things out for repair and back in time. And we'll be redistributing those to 6 to 8 in the fall, and of course collecting seniors when we do senior obligations. Our devices that are distributed include cases, or will more consistently. We didn't have enough time to get enough to get out the door initially, but and they're insured, which is important because it allows us to make sure we are keeping our fleet, the numbers of devices here. We discussed last time we spoke about the reason why we're not going to allow BYOD in the future. That would be allowing students to bring their own device. Frankly, it's not really allowed in terms of Chapter 17, so we have to make sure that if we've determined it's needed for learning, that we provide it at district cost, at public cost. It also creates a really important environment in terms of equity so that students aren't feeling like they're missing out on something that a peer can afford and they cannot. It also helps to provide consistency for our staff. We allowed a BYOD this year simply because the ability to purchase devices in a timely manner was impacted by the worldwide demand. And we'll be informing families, and we've started to notify students that this, by the end of this year, they're going to be bringing their school device into class in the fall. And libraries is an area of passion of mine personally. We are really fortunate to have spaces and staff, but we need to spend some more time and resources on those things. And so we started with a redesign of the Alta Vesta. I am really looking forward to showing you some before and after pictures once it's fully implemented, but I can tell you that the furniture purchases that we've made and are really excited about are going to showcase kind of a very different learning space. And we're also looking at making improvements to the Goodyear Library, which is in great condition, but whose furniture is really not appropriate for elementary kids. And we'll be moving that furniture down to the Kennedy, or up to the Kennedy rather, where it's more appropriately sized for students of that age and where their furniture is in poor condition. So looking forward to sharing some of that with you once we actually get those spaces filled up. We're working very hard to start to look at the collection, leading books heavily, as we talked about our policies recently around disposal of property and older materials. And we're also looking at digitizing a catalog system. I will probably surprise you when I tell you students check out books with cards and tablets. I know, I was surprised too. And it's a very difficult way to manage a collection, very difficult to really make important purchasing decisions about the books that are coming in, the demand of books, and the circulation volume, to even check for our own success as we make changes. So we'll be working on that. And there's been a shift to genreify the collection, and just to make sure everyone understands what that means, that is similar to when you go into a Barnes & Noble or a regular bookstore. There is no Dewey Decimal System with a key on the wall. There is a cooking section, and there is a mystery section, and it's very easy for readers in those environments to navigate and find books of interest, which is what we want to develop in our libraries, is that love of reading and make the access to the content more kid-friendly. So this is being done in the high school library. It's been completed. They had a genre reveal, which I thought was really sweet, and they've done a lot of work to create a much more welcoming space and a much easier to browse space for students, and has seen a really positive response for faculty and students. Just have an extra slide in there. So just some photos from the library so you can see. The other thing I want to point out is that Mike Friesen from the Kennedy Middle School, who runs our engineering design class, had made, using some equipment that he had, wooden carved signs for all of the genres in the library, and those are on display at the high school library, showing each section to students. They're color-coded to match the tape that is on the spine that helps students to quickly visually see where a book goes and to get them into a section. And then finally, we're making some real inroads on purchasing to support a robust digital literacy and computer science curriculum. We've had some significant grant funding both through WCEF and through DESE with their Digital Literacy Now grants in excess of $25,000 this year, and we expect that to continue. We've been purchasing robotics platforms that we have investigated and identified for the elementary grade level, and programming for the middle school. We're starting to do some of that work over the summer, and it will continue. But I'm looking forward to those opportunities for our students because they represent a really growing area of career options for students, and it's so important that we expose them at the elementary level so that will feed some of the amazing programs that Kim Hoven and her team have been developing at the high school in terms of the career pathways, and the work there will be hopefully fueled by kids that are excited about coding and robotics and interested in learning more when they get to the high school. And finally, the innovation coaches, which you're aware of, is being funded in the budget. I couldn't be more excited. Many districts search for and fund digital learning coaches, and very early on, Courtney Young and I partnered on our need for trying to support teachers in overall, curriculum development and innovative teaching methods, and we have a very similar mindset, which is good instruction is made better through technology, but it starts with good instruction. And so having coaches that are strong in content and teaching methodologies, and having those people providing training and coaching around the technology and how that can be meaningfully incorporated is really the way to go, as opposed to separating those roles and having someone that just sort of thinks about teaching the tool and someone that thinks about teaching the content. We're looking at creating this role to provide support to both of those things, and so I'm looking forward to working with Courtney and supporting those staff and developing their skills in that area so that they can then support our teachers in using all of this amazing technology that we've been investing in. So that is what I have for you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Judkins. You can take a breath for a second. Would you mind answering some questions from the school committee?
Certainly.
All right. Let's see. Oh, Dr. Wells has a question.
Hi. You had one of your highlights was the single sign-on.
Yes, Clever.
Could you kind of go over that a little
Happy
bit?
to speak about that. So, Clever is a single sign-on tool that allows us to create a dashboard for students showing the applications that are commonly used. It's customizable so that an elementary student in a certain grade sees different icons than a student in a middle school. It also helps to create an environment where students are not trying to remember umpteen different passwords, and they come in by signing into their Chromebook. Signing into their Chromebook logs them into Clever, and then they click buttons that launch them into another application. If it's not a Clever supported application, because not all of them are, data interoperability, as it's called, this concept of everyone sort of playing nice with each other is a dream, but not a reality. So sometimes Clever isn't something that can work. Students sign in the first time, and then it remembers that password as part of their Clever account, preventing them from having to do that again. Teachers have been really pleased with this and have asked, please tell me this is staying, and it absolutely is. I will also just let you know that we are partnering as a pilot district with something called Mass Data Hub, And Mass Data Hub is a project through the Massachusetts Privacy Consortium that I've mentioned to you before, that we're part of, the Student Data Privacy Organization that we are partnered with. And what it will be doing is looking at data that we send to the state through our SIF daily upload. It's an automatic thing we do. And using that as a way to bridge different information about students and passwords and things like that so that we can create student accounts more automatically and have data moving into those different platforms. So it will work in conjunction with Clever, but it will expand the amount of applications that we can support and the granularity in terms of data privacy control that we'll have. So that's something that we are actually starting in the next couple of weeks.
And do they have to be on the school network to use a lot of these applications?
They do not. All of the applications that we purchase and that I support are cloud-based, and they're device agnostic. That is sort of a rule of thumb that I follow, and thankfully, there's typically an option, even if the teacher comes to us with something that is more tied to a single platform or downloaded software, we can usually find an alternative. But all of these are accessible outside of the district and typically are accessible through their Woburn account, but not any specific hardware or network.
And do they store their work on the cloud, or do they store it on their hard drive?
Great question. Cloud storage all the way. Chromebooks do have storage, but their default storage is Google Drive.
Okay.
And these applications that we use store their information in the cloud, which is why the data privacy piece is important, but I think we have a pretty good handle on that.
And then with regard to virus protection, what are you, and what you're using, but how has it worked? What are you seeing, like when your computers that are out and about in the community get logged in? I assume you can detect if they're contaminated.
Yeah, so we use Cylance as our primary tool. It is considered a fairly modern endpoint protection service, different from tools like McAfee that are more classic, where you have to know the problem in order to prevent it. Usually there's a delay in those tools responding. Cylance is more of an intelligent threat protection that looks for certain types of code being executed and knows that this is typically malicious. That is something that is installed on all of the computers that are PCs or running a Windows operating system or MacBooks. What's really interesting and unique about Chromebooks is because they don't allow programs to be executed or run, it's not possible for them to get viruses, which is a huge benefit to us. So as we shift more and more teachers to Chromebooks, that actually is helping us in terms of our cybersecurity area, and but we still continue to have that piece of software to protect devices that will continue to be in the system and more prone to viruses and malware.
And then I'm going to switch to the library a little bit. So can you explain sort of any work you're doing with the library? I know the Woburn Public Library, I know there's been some turmoil a little bit, but I think it's kind of steadied itself. But sort of your view and your goals now that you're really running the libraries to work with the Woburn Public Library.
So I had made some really great connections with the prior administrative team at the library. I think we shared very much a vision of unifying the library system. I've been trying to give them a minute to settle down and and frankly, we've been very busy. So my plan would be that over the summer I'd make that connection to the interim director to just make sure we have that relationship established. I think that we had originally talked about library cards being shared between the school and the district. With the delay and all of that because of a change in administration, and there are some downsides to that in terms of us having to sort of wait on the public library, and yet we really need to move forward with the collections management. We're going to shift away from that original plan, but I think there are still lots of opportunities for us to collaborate with the library in terms of their programming, encouraging students to go to the library with their program, but also access to the databases that are beyond what we have access to and things like that. So it's still my intention to work together with them. I think it's an excellent resource in the community.
Because what I envision, somewhere down the road is that we can use our libraries to do specialized things that, you know, that are devoted to education as opposed to a generalizable library type structure that sort of exists now, because that already exists. Yeah. So hopefully,
Right.
going down the road, we'll be able
Yes,
to.
and you know, at least with the prior administration, I hope this with the future administration, frankly, the volume of titles that they have available and the budget that they have available to purchase a large volume of books, they were certainly very interested and willing to support our curriculum in terms of purchasing text sets that would support and creating what would effectively be floating collections. So my hope is that we would still do that, because it is difficult to support all of the areas of the curriculum, you know, consistently with current nonfiction books specifically, because they need to be so current. And so, yeah, it is my hope that we can continue to utilize their resources also to bring additional titles into our spaces during certain units where we may not have the volume of collection that we would need to give students the amount of choice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. Mr. Kissel.
Couple of questions. You mentioned on the help desk support slide.
Sure.
You don't have to pull it up if you don't. Home visits. In the past, 2019 to 2020, what would you say home visit? I mean, just a couple? Did you even do
None at all.
None at all. Okay. So how many did you do this?
Frankly, we weren't supporting parents. It just
Yeah.
wasn't. Not to say that we were unwilling. It just wasn't a thing.
Yeah,
You know?
you didn't need it.
So the number and the data that I provided is the only thing I have, which is ticketing that happens through an email ticketing system. What I don't have is quantification of the calls and the home visits. There were not a large number of home visits, but I just you know, I wanted to mention that in terms of it can be difficult to support families sometimes remotely, and so when we hit a wall and realized we were still not meeting the need, it was sort of like, well, okay, well, we go do this now. So we have sent staff both to homes as well as some of the remote, trying to think of the name, like
sites.
the extended, you know, the learning sites there.
Boys Club and stuff.
Yes, and then the church there as well. So we've gone to locations as well to help them troubleshoot and ensure that, you know, students are able to stay on learning.
Right.
I also should point out that we have, we're really fortunate that we have staff that, one staff member that speaks Spanish fluently, and that has been a godsend, a huge support to our families. We also worked with Adriana and the EL staff to have some on-site opportunities for families to come into the building and to have one-on-one support with our staff to ensure that they could help their students when they were learning fully at home, to be able to navigate and support their children. So, you know, these are all things that happened throughout the time that that this was all going on, but I think represented kind of a range of ways that we supported families and their staff.
Excellent. And the district insured.
Yes.
It says $50 minimum. Maybe you did touch on it. I don't know if you did. What is that? You have to explain that.
Yeah. So our insurance covers accidental damage. What we are doing when we move forward with the one-to-one is the first incident is sort of like free. We won't charge people. Accidents happen, but subsequent incidents we will be invoicing families for a minimum $50 charge up to the cost of their repair. And that's simply to ensure that people are trying to take care of the devices. I think it can be challenging to, you know, to constantly repair the same device because people are maybe not being as careful. But accidents happen, so we want to provide that first incident at no cost to families. So that is something that families were alerted to when they were given the device. We'll continue to make people aware of that when they come back at the beginning of the year as part of our annual commissions to just make sure that people haven't forgotten about that. And so, yeah.
So I think, I don't have it in my own, but on a homeowner's, you can get riders for maybe computer equipment, camera equipment, extra things that wouldn't normally be covered. Is that something the parents have the option of, as opposed to just saying, oops, you know, it's going to be $500, I wasn't expecting it?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, the cost of Chromebooks is only just around $300, so even if a full device, typically the damage is either a keyboard or a screen break, and so the screen breaks run around $100, and the keyboard repairs are closer to the $50 mark. They're also an education grade rugged device, so they, you can literally, I won't because this is a Chromebook, but if it was, I'm not even kidding you can pour a whole glass of water on it. I've seen it done in demos, and the device is fine. There's a membrane on the keyboard and draining holes in the like. So they're really made for, I don't want kids pouring. I shouldn't probably said that publicly. Please let that not be the next video going up on your Snapchat. So,
we know we appeal to the younger set.
Yeah. So it's a ruggedized design, much more so than what you would typically purchase or pick up if you went to like a Walmart. They're mil spec for a drop test, that kind of thing. The keys really, when I say like keyboard repairs, these are not really accidents. When keys come off of these keyboards, they're absolutely deliberate. They actually need to be pried off. They're engineered in such a way that they do not just come off. And so again, there needs to be some level of responsibility and care expected from the device, so that students and families understand that there can't be sort of any number of damages with no consequence. So yeah.
Now, is this a policy that's we purchased to cover all these, or is it self-insurance?
It is a policy that we purchased to cover them. We insured not the entire fleet, but a particular model that is the primary model that we're sending home. We continue to repair in-house some of the older models. It just made more sense financially for us. And we'll continue to monitor that, looking at, I don't really have the, I'll be able to provide you with a lot more detail and data kind of once we collect the fleet back at the end of the year and assess everything to let you know sort of what the value has been of that insurance in terms of how many repairs we did, what the cost of those repairs were. They can provide us with all of that information.
And obviously, 22, the year, you have the 9 through 11 is keeping the devices for the summer. Would that policy cover it out of school like that, where they're not in school?
Oh, yeah. Yep, it does.
Okay,
It
so
does,
your policy.
and it really, like I say, it almost becomes difficult to, it's better to just say, this is the policy, it doesn't matter how it broke, because you end up getting into, well, my friend had it when it fell, or it's like, I don't have a video camera every time, and at the end of the day, we gave it to you, you gave it back to us broken, and so it is the responsibility of the student. So it is important to have insurance because things do happen, but they're not delicate devices by any stretch. And so, the damage that we have been seeing typically is more deliberate and sometimes accidental, but not always.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, Mr. Lipset.
Just to quickly follow up on that first, and I have a couple other questions. Is there, and I know that the cost of Chromebooks is relatively low compared to other devices, but is there any type of hardship waiver for families that might really have financial struggles paying for a broken device?
Yeah, so we will be working with finance and building principals to sort of identify when that needs to be adjusted, whether the fee is reduced or waived, or that the payment can be delayed. I will tell you that under no circumstances will a student be without a device, whether we're waiting on payment or not, that I can assure you. But we'll work with finance and with administration to help us identify when those needs are, need to be addressed.
Thank you.
Yes.
And so you mentioned that we're continuing 1-to-1 with grades 6 to 12. What about the machines that were given to grades K through 5 last year?
We are collecting those now, so we kind of wanted to wait till we came back, make sure we weren't going to be pivoting back to remote. Thank you for that not being a thing. And so we've been, don't say that.
He said it.
You did.
That was him.
I didn't see his lips move.
I'm gonna just ignore that. So, so we got collecting those, so we're going through collecting those devices now. We're assessing them so that we can get them off. The reason we didn't wait till the end of the year is twofold. One, it just can take, it's like herding cats, you know what I mean? Trying to get them all in, following up families, just getting them all in is much easier when they're physically in the building. Secondly, as you can imagine, the demand for parts is extremely high. I will send devices in for repair. It will be months before we get them back because everyone is having the same problem, which is parts availability. So my concern, frankly, is that we may not get them all back in time to implement the fixes, that there will be no delay, but I, realistically, I expect there will be some. The question is how many have to go out and whether it's going to impact our ability to fully implement the 6 to 12 one-to-one on day one of school, or if there needs to be sort of a staggered plan. And we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Like the whole year's been like that.
So we're anticipating maintaining a supply within. I mean, are we? We're not selling back any of the machines that we currently have, or anything like that?
Yeah. So great question. I'm sorry I didn't fully answer your.
No, that's fine. That was very.
So yeah, in terms of elementary, we will supply parts. So my plan has always been, in terms of the capital plan that I laid out for you folks early on, which was that device access and availability is critical at all grade levels. Certainly developmentally, the amount of time and devices you need is a little bit different, but it should not be a let's book the cart and wait a week before you can get it. We can't have that and have it integrated well into teaching. So what we have is in grade 1, in grade K, 1 and 2, we are preparing actually now and starting to roll out a center sort of collection of iPads, which is 6 per classroom. So each classroom will get 6 iPads. They can certainly share them among classrooms because we have very purposefully rolled out the same apps across all of those devices so that they can easily be grabbed. It's not like you have to wonder that this so-and-so has different applications. So we have those going out, and then in grade 2, they will share also a part of Chromebooks as sort of a second grade team in all the in each building. Grade 3 will share a part between 2 classrooms, and if there are 3 classrooms, they will have 2 parts. And grades 4 and 5 will have 1 part per classroom. So effectively 1-to-1, truthfully, in grades 4 and up. The take-home is grades 6 and up.
Okay.
And we don't sell them back because really they're worth keeping. I mean, you really end up, you want to squeeze all the value out of them that you can. And they really, they run pretty well for a long time until they totally die. So it's just generally not worth selling them.
Okay. A couple questions on the library. So gentrification is awesome, and knowing how students often use libraries is great. I am wondering a little bit about students in older grades who might need to do really specific research projects, where Dewey Decimal might have been helpful, or some kind of internal, within a genre, organizational system. I don't know what kind of options there exist for that. So, for example, in my class, if a student needed to, look up a particular, particular battle of World War II, right? I mean, that's, if you've got a broad U.S. history section, it might be hard to identify where to look in that catalog. Whereas Dewey Decimal might be able to point you in more direct solutions. I don't know if there's a
yeah, sure. So to address your question, there are many schools that move to genreification strictly to their fiction section.
Okay.
So that is a thing. That being said, we're doing a whole thing.
Okay.
We're doing fiction and nonfiction. Again, when I think about our EL students, when I think about our whole student population, there is a trade-off. I understand what you're saying. However, if we do a digital cataloging system, and the system that we're looking at is very kid-friendly, we're looking at using a system called Accessit, which is used widely actually in the EU, less so in the US, but I'm all about blazing a trail, and I've done a lot of research, and I am very confident that this is the right decision. So we are going to be using that. What's really nice about it is it's a very kid-friendly search, very much like a Google search, where you don't have to spell something correctly. It will search even on, approximate spelling of authors or subjects, and the results are very clear, and that will guide students into the section. So there is still spine numbering and labeling. It's just a little bit different. So there's a color code that gets you into the section, and then there is a code for the author name and the I forget. There's like a pictures of the spines, but it is still labeled. It's just labeled differently, and again, more kid-friendly. I think the pictures aren't even big enough for me to show you that. But I think it is still navigable to that level of detail, particularly in conjunction with a search. So that's another reason why it's so important that we catalog all of this stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that there was some kind of an internal system within genres that might help, and it sounds like
There is,
so
yes.
great.
Yeah, it's not just like all the blue stuff goes here. No.
Yeah. And I guess, the last question, and I mean, certainly you and your team have done just, like, honestly heroic work this
I
year.
suggested that we all put on capes, take
Yes.
a picture, and have it on the first slide. That was a suggestion.
Happy to talk about the cost of
Just
purchasing those
saying.
capes. So, I guess the question broadly is sort of where do we go from here, right? How do we use what we've done as a jumping off point? And you've talked a little bit about that in this in terms of adding innovation coaches and being able to really build on what we've done. But I wonder, if you can give a sense of are there particular directions that we're going to be moving in that maybe you didn't mention in the presentation that
Yeah, so all of the districts are sort of facing this similar problem, right? Like we have all this stuff, we've got all these new tools, and how do we sort of take a reflective look at what are the things that are working we want to keep, and how do we support and amplify those things? Because as is always the case with innovation and new things, you have pockets of success, and then the question is, well, how do we make that more generalized to a broader population of staff, impacting more students, right? Like this is kind of a global problem. And so I've actually been starting to have conversations with some folks over at DESI and ISTE, who is also working with them. ISTE is the International Society of Technology and Education organization, the leading ed tech group. And so they've actually reached out to me, which is really nice to start to have this conversation, because they're looking at, well, how do we identify what are the things that are keepers and how do we amplify that? So that will be an ongoing conversation. It's not a quick answer and it will take years. But what I can say, and I'm really excited about, is there was no dark corner to hide in, right? Like everybody had to use technology, including many people that thought they couldn't and realized they can. So many great conversations with teachers who were like, I just had a conversation with a teacher less than a week ago. I used to look for a video on YouTube, and if I couldn't find one, oh well, I guess I wasn't using a video. Now, I just make my own video, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing.
That's awesome.
And this is a teacher who didn't think she could do it. And so I am just so excited about the fact that we have really pushed forward the timeline for this, right? I'm also really excited about the innovation coaches, because I think that is crucial to continuing to support, because it is so much more than learning the tool. That is not hard. I can help people with that. People can learn that. We've got to work on our staff who are just afraid they're going to break something if they touch the wrong button, and that is one of the first things I usually say to people who are like, I'm not tech savvy. It's like, listen, the only difference between you and that kid is they are fearless. They just press buttons, and they're not worried about it, and you need to be the same way. But, ultimately it is not, what none of us are looking for is more tech. It's really more about, well, where does it make a difference, and where does it further the lesson, and where is it additive? And so that is the more complex piece. That is something that will have to be weaved into our evaluation, so that our evaluators know what to look for and what good integration is. Like having devices out does not mean good integration. Like what are they looking for? And so I think there's a lot of layers to that. And our first sort of goal around that is the coaches that we're bringing in, because they will be the boots on the ground folks. They will help us to know where are the focus areas. I know what they are a little bit, but it will help to get more feelers out there to give us that feedback. I think also consistency in terms of the platforms that we're offering teachers. Having spent many years in the classroom, I was always frustrated that we would be provided a new technology only to have it taken away, and you start to get this feeling of, well, I guess I'm not trying a new thing because I'm going to get attached to it and then you're going to take it away, and I'm really annoyed by that. So I think we made very thoughtful decisions about our purchases with the intention that we were holding those long term. I am all about looking at data, and I don't buy a product that I can't get good usage data of. And we're going to have to watch that and look at, is our investment, does it make sense? For most teachers, or is it only making sense for a handful of teachers and therefore not a good investment? So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think there's kind of a number of things we're thinking about. Teacher support, looking at data in terms of usage and thinking about, how do we move forward with the administrative staff around evaluation and trying to provide, better support for evaluators to know what to look for.
Thank you, and that's a perfect framework to think about how to move forward. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Lipset. Ms. Moran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. Great presentation. And you said it already, and what a year it has been. To sum it up, I think Ms. Lips said, heroes, you can do your capes, you can do what you want to give your accolades to your staff, but something that hasn't come up after all of this stuff going on, and we got emails from yourself or perhaps Dr. Crowley, what if Google goes down? Well, guess what? Google went down and Jen's working on it. What if the cable goes down in my building? Guess what? Jen's working on it. And within hours, we got a reply back. You and your staff, you work with whatever agencies were necessary to get it back up and running. And it was a family issue here, a neighborhood issue there, a building issue. And at the same time, you're still doing how many help calls you were trying to address, just regular calls, and Google went down. Google didn't just go down in the Joyce. Google went down around the world. And
that was a fun morning.
Yeah, and you all dealt with it. And Woburn, again, I think you just kind of mentioned it. We just kind of handled it. And we went through it all. And, looking back, Dr. Crowley opened up your presentation with where we were a year ago. You were here telling us all about this one-on-one program you're introducing, and we're going to need funding, and see me in 5 years. I just can't say enough of what you've done. Your staff, the families, everybody, to see this. And again, keeping the families informed, either your department or Dr. Crowley, that it's kind of, we know we're remote, whether it's virtual kids or extended learning programs at the Y or the Boys and Girls Club or wherever, but families were aware of it, and they knew that someone within the system was working on it. And I think that was key component to all that was going on, because everybody was so frustrated with everything, and now it's like, oh, great, now it's not even working. But you guys were fantastic in that avenue as well. So I just want to, acknowledge that tonight, among everything else. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Moran. Anything else? Yes.
Just reminded me of one additional question. You talked a lot about family engagements through all of this. Is that something that you're thinking about continuing in terms of doing trainings and helping families sort of navigate some of the technology even beyond COVID as we move forward?
Yeah, so I think I would probably think about it looking a little bit differently. One of the ways that I've had success supporting families in prior districts that I think is appreciated is really more around helping families to understand and navigate what is very much a digital landscape for students around digital citizenship, online safety, things like that I think are front of mind for parents. And they're always looking for resources to sort of parent in this digital age, and so I think there are opportunities there. What we definitely learned through parent support is that it is not a one-size-fits-all. It's very difficult, even though it sounds like a great idea, for example, to create a video library of how to do certain things. For most people, they want you to sit with them or talk to them about their very specific situation and walk them through. Which is fine, but I think it helps to inform us about how to spend our resources and what are going to be better kind of group ideas and presentations versus what we need to plan on as more individualized assistance for families.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Anything else for Director Junkins? No? Jen, I really appreciate you coming tonight. This was a great presentation, and I think what you're teaching us is that technology is an equalizer, can create more equity in accessing education, which I didn't always see it that way, and so I'm just really inspired by what's happened over the last year, and now we're seeing that it's absolutely essential. So I'm excited to see how you use these new positions, literacy coaches, and the technology people to further the education system. So it's going to be very exciting.
I can't wait to share with you what's coming. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. And Dr. Wells?
No, just, could we have her back? Thank you for the presentation today. I'll give you a break over the summer, but in the fall, just to discuss security issues and things like that, we can have an executive session.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
that's on the agenda. Thank you very
Our
much.
security plan is next on the agenda
Yep.
after I come up for air over the summer.
Yep, no, that'd be great.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yep.
And there's organization of books, you know, if you need some labor, some help, Mrs. Chisholm will help
Careful
you.
what you offer.
Thought I was going to get volunteered for that. I'm glad it was her.
Thank you.
Motion to return to the regular order of business?
Second.
We want to do the calendar? So-
That's the next thing on the...
Yes.
Well, isn't it? School calendar was
All
next.
right,
Okay,
let's
I'll have a
continue.
motion to hear from Ms. Callanan.
That's the motion. School calendar.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll hear from Principal
I got a
Callanan,
questions out there.
who's been waiting patiently in the queue.
Good evening. Jess, you're still there? You can hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great, thank you. So on the agenda, it's listed as WMHS graduation update, and so we start there, and then I'm sure whatever you have to say as a lead up to graduation would be most appreciated.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I think that it's hard to follow Ms. Judkins and her very well thought out presentation. And so what I will say is we received an update from the Department of Education via the state recently that said as of the 29th of May that most COVID restrictions, especially those outside, are lifted. And so there was some specific guidance around graduation. But essentially, you know, to boil it down, we no longer need to have people distanced at graduation. So there will not be a cap of 4 guests per graduate as we had previously planned. I spoke with Officer Fumasella today to make sure that he communicates that to the fire department and the police department, because we had met with them as well as DPW and the mayor and Dr. Crowley a little bit earlier, as we always do prior to graduation. And seniors, essentially, other than lining up outside rather than packing into the auditorium like we typically do to line up, the ceremony will be as close to a traditional ceremony as normal. So very, very small changes. And I'm happy to say that last year I think we did a great job, but it was 95 degrees and it was July 25th, I believe, and it took 12 hours. So I think we did a great job for the community and the seniors, but I'm very happy to be able to deliver a normal graduation to our senior class, the class of 2021. And just to kind of address the other things that are happening now as we lead up to graduation is Faith mentioned that our seniors that were on internship, they did internship presentations to small groups of staff and administration over the past 3 or 4 days. There were about 86 seniors that did internships. This was our first year. Last year was planned to be our first year, but obviously that was interrupted. And so very proud of those seniors and the wide array of internships that they engaged in. And so that is done. The seniors and their classes are wrapping up. For final grades are due today. For seniors, I'm very proud of them. And then today we had our senior class day, which is when the yearbook is unveiled for the very first time. I don't even see it prior to today. It was dedicated to the community of Woburn, which I thought was a wonderful dedication considering all that we've been through over the past year and a half. And the lift up, which was done a little bit differently, that overlays into the same theme as the yearbook, was also unveiled, and it was pretty great. They still had to do it essentially virtually, but it's pretty awesome. And so I'm really just proud of the class. We also named our scholar athletes, our athletes that do community service, as well as the male and female athlete of the year. The yearbook staff was honored. And so it just was a really good day for the senior class. And then tomorrow we have a day of service. We're working with the DPW and the Veterans Association to walk to one of the cemeteries closest to the high school and do beautification work in the cemetery, specifically around the veterans' gravestones, and place new flags at those stones prior to Memorial Day. And so that's a pretty cool thing that we're doing. Usually the kids go into their elementary schools, but since we had to kind of flip senior events around, this lined up with Memorial Day, so I think it's a great thing, and I really appreciate the DPW working with me to make something happen that's safe and the kids can be outside. Next week we have an Odyssey cruise, which the kids typically do. I'm excited that they're able to do that on June 1st. We have sort of a modified scholarship night where the larger scholarships that are presented by outside donors, they will come on June 1st to be recorded with students and small groups and their families, because we still have to keep under that cap. I think things are changing rapidly inside. And so we recorded the Dollars for Scholars names today in the Warren Scholarship. And so the Woburn Public Media Center, as always, is so awesome to us. And they are putting together a one presentation, one video that will go out on June 2nd to all families. It will be online. So any member and anybody that lives in Woburn will have access to it, or usually they do it on YouTube. So if you live in New Zealand and you want to watch the Woburn Scholarship Night, you can do that. And then on June 3rd, we're going to have our promenade. We did move the prom-like event to the high school because we had to make that decision to be able to host the whole class, and we're doing it in the back courtyard essentially. We're having food trucks, and the promenade's going to be outside in the football stadium. But we're making it happen, and everybody's pulling together at Woburn High to make it a really special event. The kids voted to have it be pretty formal. They didn't get a junior prom, so this is it for them. And so we're really excited to be able to do that. Then we'll do rehearsal on June 4th. The kids get their cap and gowns, pay up all obligations, turn in their Chromebooks, and then we will have the graduation ceremony on June 6th on Sunday at 2 o'clock, provided weather cooperates. So that's where we are. There's a lot of other things going on as well, but I'm happy to answer any questions about anything at the high school.
Thank you, Principal Callahan. Any questions from the committee? Oh, I'm not seeing any. She's getting away with it. Thank you so much for that update. And we are usually all at the graduation, so we will see you there. Can't wait. And I know Mrs. Chisholm is very happy about the placement of flags.
Yes.
Yes. So I just want to comment that for her. Okay, thank you so much, Principal Callahan.
Thank you very much for the update.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
That's great. Okay, so I think we're finally going to vote on the school calendar.
Got a couple of questions.
Yeah, Ms. Sprague, are you going to present the calendar?
I can. I just want to make one note on December, the half day. Yeah, it should be the 7th, and it should be Tuesday. I don't know.
What is it?
On December, the half day,
December.
it should be the 7th, and it should be Tuesday. So I'll make that correction before it goes out publicly.
Okay.
For the release date, doesn't matter.
All right. And you had some questions, Dr. Wallace?
Yeah, I'm very worried at the end date. It's the 29th. It essentially means we have one day. If we have 7 snow days.
That 29th includes
the
5. I know it includes 5. That's what I'm saying. Because we can't go beyond July 1st. And, just... Is there any, contractually, do we have to start the students 2 days after?
Contractually, no.
Okay.
But given the return to school with the investment in all the curriculum, the thinking is to provide teachers time to get acclimated back into the classrooms for professional development trainings, etc. What I don't know, to answer the snow day question, is this year we did have the ability to flip remote. I'm not sure what the state is going to allow us to do next year. That may be a mechanism to kind of release some of the pressure off that last date.
And I think also the 29th is not an unusual last date that we've had on the calendar off and on for many years. It is late, but it's not unusual.
Well, June
It's
30th
been late
is,
many times.
It's the Friday.
Yeah.
June 30th is the Thursday, July 1st is the Friday.
Go to July 1st, but no.
No, you
No.
can't. You have to- you
The
have to do
30th would be
30th.
the last day we could be in school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so just for the record, it looks like the first day of school for teachers
Just-
would be September 7th.
Yeah, just
and the
another
first
reason,
day
Madam Chair.
of
oh,
school
sorry.
for the students would be September 9th. I'm just reading it out in case
Yes.
people want to follow along.
Yeah. I think it's just another example of why we really need to look at beginning, earlier in September, like the rest of the communities do surrounding us. Because then we don't have these worries.
Getting out early this year.
Yep. Anyway, nothing
Dr.
you can do
Wells.
about it. That was negotiated by the mayor.
Any further comments or questions on the school calendar for 2021, 2022?
Make a motion, we accepted it as amended by Ms. Briggs, that one notification she's going to change and make it go public. Madam
Second.
Chair.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. The motion passes. Again, I will announce that the first day of school for teachers is September 7th. That was part of an MOU negotiated between the school committee and the teacher association. And the first day for students will be September 9th. And the last day of school is slated to be June 22nd, holding 5 snow days, in which it will be June 29th. Okay. Moving on to subcommittee reports. Finance, Mrs. Chisholm.
We would meet on May 17th at 3:30 here at the middle school. In attendance with Superintendent Dr. Mike Rowley, Superintendent Father Canada, and Patty Buchanan, and school committee members Dr. John Wells, Andrew Lipson, and myself. We had received a list of bills prior, and questions were submitted and answered through email, and I did file a copy with minutes with Jean. The invoice for warrant 1 was $1,181,861.85. Warrant 2 was $106,457.45. Warrant 3 was $739,638.01, and warrant 4 was $3,426.25. Motion made, second, approve those bills presented to the committee.
Make a motion to approve the list of bills.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Aye. The motion passes.
There was one journal entry for $123,993.63 that was made. It was made within advance and no action is needed, except that I just have to sign that. There was discussion concerning administrators being paid for attendance by events outside the school day, and administration can look into that. I don't know if there's an answer on that, if that's something you want.
It's ongoing. I inquired.
Okay, all right. Lunch program for this year has a profit of $52,032.20. But we're still watching the lunch debt and hoping that we can get all that resolved, but that's been a work in progress, and we're getting there. There was discussion on student activity accounts and who has authority over them, and assuring that monies are raised and spent by the students that are actually doing the fundraising. Principals do approve all of these fundraisers in their own buildings. They know that the classes can gift the money to the following students. Recommendation that this is placed on the agenda so that the committee as a whole can discuss this and understand that policy. So that could be something we can do even in the fall. If we want to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Chisholm.
The committee was presented with the Powers and Sullivan report. There were only 2 findings, one reporting error on the city side and one error on the school side. It was just in the matter which was reported, but there was no financial discrepancy, there was no action taken on that. The schools are projected to be turning over $3.5 million to the city. The administration has notified the mayor, and they're looking to fund a expense stabilization fund that we've been trying to do for years. So maybe we can do that, put $1 million in that. So hopefully that'll help us with any unforeseen expenditures that we may incur next year. The mayor is looking at this favorably. The reason for this is COVID related, when transportation costs were down, special ed costs were down. So that's why we had it. It wasn't that we were over budget last year. So hopefully that'll do it in the meeting adjourned at 4 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Chisholm. Any questions for Mrs. Chisholm, Dr. Wells?
Yeah, one comment. You mentioned about the student activities. We just want to mention that Mr. Alcanada did a presentation to the principals and instructing them the rules about fundraising and so forth. And I think that was really important, and emphasizing the need when to have fundraisers and how to spend the money appropriately. So I think that was really helpful, and I appreciate him doing that, because that's always been a concern of the committee, that money's being raised, but it's not being spent on the children that are raising it, so it was really good.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. Thank you, Mr.
And
Alfanato.
I did have one question. I don't know if we returned it all the money over, but did you discuss with the mayor potentially using some of that money to fund the review of our, buildings and so forth, rather than waiting to spend it out of the grant funding? Because it would seem, from a financial standpoint, it would seem better to spend that money than rather the grant money, which has 2-year lifetime.
You mean the feasibility study, Dr. Wells?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have actually made the request that that feasibility study be funded out of the capital improvement plan.
Okay.
As capital improvement plan, so we're waiting on notification of that.
Okay. Maybe then we could only return 2.4 or whatever. If that doesn't come through. Okay.
Keep a little something for yourself, Paul.
Yeah, you've done that. Thank you. Okay.
No.
No. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll just make a motion to approve the balance of accounts.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Curriculum data trend, Mr. Lipson.
We have not met. We do have a meeting scheduled for Tuesday, June 1st at 3 p.m.
Great, thank you, Mr. Lipset. Personnel, Mr. Mulrennan.
We have not met, although we're going to try to get the members together and meet soon.
Thank you, Mr. Mulrennan. Policy and safety, Mr. Kissel.
We have not met, but there are 2 items that came as an email from Dr. Baldessari. One is, page over here, that the DNB disposal policy of equipment has been updated and placed in the policy manual.
Thank you.
And the elementary principals did review the dress code policy in that handbook. Is that right?
Correct.
And no changes were recommended in that set.
Thank you.
So we will be meeting at some point.
Yes, we have a number of things coming up.
Excellent.
Awesome.
We'll reach out soon.
Thank you, Dr. Baltzar, for keeping us updated on that, and Mr. Kissel. Moving on to Resource and Capital Planning Subcommittee.
We have never met, and we do not anticipate meeting until there's word about.
Well, we have. We do.
I will reach to, I would like to set up a meeting.
I'm holding out until I find out about the.
Is it the Wyman?
The Wyman
Are you
school.
meeting about the Wyman?
That's my protest.
No. Do we have no other buildings in the system?
As a matter,
If I don't, I have to put my foot down. Until we
You have a
find out-
gavel, Ms. Chair.
Give some fake news.
I'm gonna.
Dr. Wells, you get some fake news some night. Just make one up.
So use it.
We're going to meet and we cancel.
Pull out this, start going through some papers.
All right, so we do have an issue we have to deal
Yeah,
with.
there is just an update, so the committee, it would be helpful to meet.
Okay. Besides myself and Mr. Kissel.
You don't even know. I can't be on. I'm on 2 others.
Mr. Lipset, and must be somebody else.
I think Mr. Matters is actually.
Mr. Demers.
I think it's Joe Crowley.
Dennis Russell.
I have the list, the group in my office.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping it's the same person that's on the curriculum. We'll do 2 for 1.
There you go. If that's possible, we'll do, get it. Okay, thank you.
So Dr. Wells will speak to the superintendent about the issue.
Yeah, okay.
I know that the superintendent has something in mind about moving offices in the Joyce to accommodate this sort of change in administration. Okay. Student services and achievement, Ms. Cormier?
We have not yet met, but we will be meeting on June 3rd, Thursday, 9 a.m. Calendars, gentlemen. As you are already aware, but just a reminder.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Cormier. Correspondence? I didn't get any on behalf of the committee, and if I did, it's not on the top of my head, so I apologize. I'll report on next week. Any correspondence from any committee members?
I didn't see.
Just the Memorial Day celebration.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
We will be celebrating Memorial Day. The full committee will be there as always.
But it's only at the city. It's only
City Hall grounds.
At City Hall,
Common.
starting at 11?
9.
9.
That's Veterans Day.
Thank you.
Veterans 11.
11, 11, 11.
Awesome. Always a wonderful event. Future agenda items, I will say that we need to evaluate the superintendent. And
Can we do it right now?
So hard.
Let's see.
And if Ms. Cormier, can you tell us when our next meeting is? Do you know?
School committee?
Yes, school committee, Mr. Kissel.
Tuesday, June 8th at 7 p.
26 at 7 p.m.
June 8th?
June 8th?
June 8th.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
A week from Tuesday.
I'll ask the superintendent, is that enough time to prepare evaluation presentation on that day?
Sure.
Okay, are you comfortable, that's not a full year from the last evaluation? Is the committee comfortable with that? Okay, great. So we'll do the superintendent's evaluation on June 8th.
It'll be
So the
9/10 of a raise.
Just a question, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, of course.
So, are we going to get the documents beforehand and do the actual evaluation, or is he going to give us the documents that night, do a presentation, and then we'll do it?
Let me ask the superintendent, do you think that you could get the documents to the committee a couple days before the meeting? Or
Yes,
is that too
I-
aggressive?
Well, we can do it.
Well, we also don't have another meeting in June. I think we canceled the final meeting because of school ending.
Make more meetings.
We can always.
I mean, we could, but also we
I
could
still
not.
have the 23rd of March, so we don't anymore?
It's booked
I know,
on,
but-
it's booked on, well, canceled it to the 23rd, it's still there.
Great.
Did we cancel it?
All right,
We
so.
said we don't usually
I'm going to
have it.
Moosehead Lake the
Okay.
next morning. I'm good with
We'll
cancellation.
preliminarily schedule it right now
Yeah.
for June 8th, and then I'll speak to the superintendent if these.
Doesn't work, it doesn't.
It would be good if we
can
could
always
get it like
move
the
it.
Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Friday before the meeting. Okay. thank
And
you.
remember, we have to do it live, unless we have a sealed envelope and we put the feedback in the envelope or something. But other than that, we have to evaluate the
Yeah.
superintendent when live. And Dr. Wells, you had requested a
Chronic
topic on
absence-
the chronic absenteeism.
Report on that. I don't know if people saw in the Globe, they had an article about chronic absenteeism in the school systems, and I think we should just get an update where we're at and what steps are being taken to mitigate the problem.
Thank you,
And there's
Dr.
no meeting.
Wells.
What are you talking about?
We can discuss that at a future meeting.
He's talking about
Crystal.
SSA. That's
All
what he's
right.
talking about.
If you have more future agenda items, you can always email me. And I am told that we could go into executive session because we have a proposal to settle an agreement with the Woburn Administrators Association. Do I have a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of strategy and collective bargaining and/or litigation?
So moved, Madam Chair. For the
Second.
Reason you stated.
Any discussion on that motion? Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Chisholm?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. Lipset?
Yes.
Mr. Mulrennan?
Yes.
Mr. Kissel?
Yes.
Dr. Wells?
Yes.
Ms. Crowder?
Yes. Okay, so we will now go in, yeah, we're in exec, okay.